What do you think is the most essential thing for us to live? Let me guess. Food, water and air, right? We can survive without food and even water for probably a few days, but not for more than a few minutes without air, isn't it? So we can say that these three are the essential things for us to live. And out of them, air is the primary one. But even when all these are present to be consumed, a dead body is still dead. Even if you put it on a ventilator to facilitate inhalation of the air, which seems to be the most essential aspect, you cannot revive it. Because it doesn't have one of the two fundamental elements of life, Prana. There is no exact equivalent term in English, so we call it the life force or life energy. But essentially, it's called Pranavayu, which keeps us alive. In our body, this Pranavayu has 5 manifestations. One is simply called the Pran itself, and it resides in the chest area, governing our function of breathing and providing the necessary force for inhalation. If the Pranavayu leaves the body, the process of death starts. Among the 5 manifestations, this is the first one to leave when a person dies. And that's why the very first thing that happens on death is that the breathing stops. Let me tell you an interesting fact related to Pranavayu. I'm sure you must be aware of the Western trend of saying bless you when someone sneezes. In some parts of India, we say Shatam Jeev, which means live for 100 years. It's because when we sneeze, the Pranavayu almost leaves the body for a fraction of a second, which means that for a moment our life force was gone. So by saying bless you or Shatam Jeev, we feed a positive thought to the person, praying for his long life. Below the chest, till the navel, the life force is the Samanvayu, which governs the digestion of food and assimilation of nutrients. Samanvayu generates heat in our body, which is essential to digest the food and maintain body temperature. This heat is also referred to as the digestive fire. When one dies and the Samanvayu leaves, the body starts becoming cold and stiff. Further down, below the navel, is the Apanvayu, which governs the excretory and the reproductive system. As it flows downwards, it supports the downward and the outward movements of the body. Then there is Udanvayu, which resides in the upper part of the body above the throat. Udan gives us buoyancy as it flows upwards. This upward movement makes us less available to gravity, because of which we can stand against it and do upward movements like jumping. There are people in the world who can control this Udanvayu in a way that makes them less available to gravity. Once in a while you may have heard of such people who can lift themselves up in the air to an extent that they seem to fly. This happens by enhancing the Udan force more than the gravitational pull. It happens with all of us that on some days when we feel a little down in energy or when we are sick, it becomes difficult to carry our own self, right? And I'm sure you must have noticed that lifting and carrying a person who has fallen unconscious is way more difficult than lifting the same person when he is conscious and healthy. It happens because of the receding Udan Vayu. It's because of the Udan Pran or Udan Vayu that we don't feel we are carrying our weight all the time. Although there are more refined categories of Pranavayu, but in the main category we are talking about today, the last one is the Vyan Pran or Vyanvayu, which is spread all over the body. This governs the circulation, expansion and pervasiveness of the body. This is the last Vayu to leave a dead body, and once it does, the body starts to rot. Because all these 5 pranic forces leave the body one after the other on death, the changes in the dead body do not happen immediately all at once. They happen sequentially. If that had not been the case, a dead body would start rotting immediately after the breathing stops. I'm sure you must have realized sometimes or the other that you become accustomed to the things you regularly use, and your body immediately notices even the slightest of change in them, even if you are not very conscious about it. Especially in an office where all the chairs are exactly the same in design, if someone replaces your chair without you knowing about it, your body will tell you as soon as you sit on it, even without an active involvement of your mind. Many people find it difficult to sleep if they just change sides on the same bed they sleep on daily. Something like this happens with you as well, right? Some people might simply brush it off, saying that it's psychological. And by saying so, they actually try to say that it's illogical. But remember, anything becomes illogical or random to us simply because we do not pay enough attention to it to understand the root cause. So let's understand the root cause here. How do you recognize a person? You recognize someone because you have a memory of that person stored inside you. If someone deletes this memory, as it happens in certain diseases, you will not even recognize your family members. Is it illogical? No, it's just because the data against which your intellect recognizes someone has been lost. Similarly, our body also stores the memory of every object it comes in touch with, and it knows the feeling of every touch. So even without your conscious involvement and without your eyes noticing any difference, the body tells you that it's a different chair. When someone dies, this memory doesn't die. It's just like a computer's hard disk. If you pull the power off or break the peripheral system, the data once written to the hard disk isn't erased. The pranic energy or the pranvayu also has its memory, which is not erased. It is simply released from the dead body. And because of this memory, at times the pranvayu takes a long time to leave the place where the person dies. The stronger the dead person's attachment has been towards his life, the harder it becomes for his energy to leave the place. That's the reason we in India have a lot of rituals performed up to 13 days of anybody's death to help the pranvayu get rid of its attachment. Because of the same reason, we don't recommend using any items intimately used by the person during his life. Well, you and I are still alive. So let's come back to talk about the impact of pranavayu on our lives. As simple as that, the more vibrant it is, the more lively you will feel. The moment it starts receding, which might happen because of an illness, physical or mental, or due to some psychological blockages in the nadis, the energy channels, you start feeling dull with low energy. Hatha yoga practices, especially the practice of pranayam, is one way to keep the pranvayu balanced and vibrant in your body. So the next time you practice anything in Hatha yoga, just don't do it for weight loss. Do it to become a vibrant, more conscious life. In the next few episodes, I'll talk about certain disciplinary practices laid down by Maharishi Patanjali in the form of yam and niyam, which describe how an individual should behave towards his own self and with the society. These practices are close to my heart because even if one is not a Hatha yoga practitioner nor a spiritual aspirant, they are still relevant. You simply need to be someone who wants to improve his life and those of others around you. If you are the one, you will definitely find meaning in them. So stay tuned and have a nice time.